I guess the question that you mostly knocked out was where do you see where do you think Scientology is headed in terms of member growth, social influence, and acceptance of members? And that's kind of just going about saying that like growing the Scientology community. Like, in your opinion, have you seen like a growth in diversity? Have you seen a growth in more acceptance of people? Like, how have you seen it, sort of?
So I have there's a couple things here that have been kind of interesting developments over the last I would say 15 years, and so one of them is that so when Scientology churches were first popping up, they just kind of popped up and people said, oh, this Scientology stuff is cool, I want to do it, so they'd get a space someplace, some hole in the wall someplace, and it's just it's whatever they could afford. But when you start going, what are all the things that should be being done in a Scientology church? I mean, yes, you have counseling and you have training, but then you have, when people are no longer so ground into their own problems and they've been made better, it's pretty natural for people to want to turn around and help somebody else in some way, whatever that ends up being, whether it's just kind of just broad volunteer work, which we have a whole army of volunteers that go out and do things. Like one of my best friends, she is a serial volunteer at disaster zones. She's a mom. She's unbelievable. She ended up spending like a month in the Bahamas hacking logs and dragging stuff out of the dirt. She just went to hurricane places. She's all over the place, in addition to being a mom. But this is just kind of like what she does. She's like, what else am I supposed to do? I see stuff happening, I gotta go. There's people giving anti-drug lectures and educational stuff. A lot of friends, we have a big school here which utilizes some of the technology of Scientology. It's not a Scientology school per se, but some of the study techniques it uses, and it's a fabulous school. So these guys are just super committed educators, and they're just trying to help kids, and so you've got that. But back to what I was saying, so you have all these things that are kind of supposed to be being generated in a Scientology church. It was impeded by the fact that in some cases these churches had started in the 60s in these little buildings, and they're just volunteers. They don't have means to be able to to buy a building in a downtown area is extraordinarily expensive. It's like much more expensive. Like you're probably thinking of like numbers in your mind of how expensive it would be, and it's like multiply that by 10. It's like, it's so expensive to get a building in a downtown area where people could actually find you. Like it's easy to get a barn in the hills or something like that. But if you actually want to be able to have people come downtown and, hang out and plan out how they're going to do some, whatever anti-drug march or, something or other, right? You need a space for that. That takes money. So, so that was a problem that for, decades wasn't getting solved. And so that was a whole thing that has been being done over the last 15 years is a bunch of fundraising to just say, good, whole reason we don't do all these things. We have no space for it. We have no people for it. So let's just make it. And so there's been a bunch of these new buildings that have been being put there. We've got one here in Portland, which is awesome. It's just it's so fun to be able to actually have space, a nice place to be able to take people to, if you want to have we had a thing where marijuana got legalized. There's people smoking everywhere though, in front of kids, in front of everything. We're like, okay, this is no good. I mean, how do we bring, community leaders and law enforcement and everybody kind of together to talk? If you don't have a space for that, you can't do it. Right. So now that we have spaces, we have, nice place, come around and just say, good, let's sit and work out what the right solution is for these things. So it's, so that part is nice. And that part has also kind of helped things go in the right direction in terms of, you see lots of new people, a lot of people ended up in Scientology just because they walked by and they walked in and say, what is this? And so it's, obviously that sort of thing is tough to do if you have a really like a scary looking building in a bad part of town or something like that. Like nobody's going to walk in. So that's made that sort of thing easier too. But that's kind of one thing that I think that has helped in terms of being able to just get not only get, obviously we would love more people to be Scientologists, but also it's helped with keeping people active, because Scientology really is it's a real doing centric religion. And so you want people doing stuff. It's less important, like, are you, what is, it's not a status thing. It's a doing thing. So being able to have that and all that, just kind of the, I don't want to say a stupid marketing word, but it is kind of a synergy kind of a thing of just like it works together to be able to have a space, have a bunch of people who are making it happen, and then have people who,
Yeah,
keep the cycle going.
that makes